Goldman Sachs acquired NEOS ETFs on August the 12th, just 5 days ago as I'm recording this video. Now, NEOS is one of the fastest growing ETF platforms, managing 30 billion in assets across 19 income ETFs. And through this acquisition, Goldman Sachs is expanding its offering. And my goal in this video is really quite simple: provide you some perspective and context as to the reason why Goldman Sachs acquired NEOS, but more importantly, what I think is going to happen to the NEOS ETF family, and especially SPYI and QQQI, as these are the two most popular NEOS income ETFs. To set everything in context, I'm going to play excerpts from a recent interview done with Garrett and Troy, who are the co-founders of NEOS, and Brian Lake, who's a partner at Goldman Sachs Asset Management. And while I'm not going to play the whole interview, I am going to comment on certain sections, and this together will help you visualize what's going to happen moving forward with NEOS, and then I'm going to give you my perspective.
NEOS will continue building behind its team, its disciplined approach, and while we, Goldman, bring our broader platform access, distribution, and technology advantages to the table. From a Goldman perspective, we pride ourselves on solving our problems for our clients, and that's the mantra we live by. Together with NEOS, we aim to make these solutions available to more investors and advisors across more channels and geographies.
So when he mentioned leveraging scale and resources, what does that mean for you as an investor? So definitely more money flowing into the NEOS ETFs because they're backed by Goldman Sachs. There's going to be greater liquidity. There's going to be more resources behind the options operations, and there's going to be definitely more staying power. When the ETFs scale up, and they probably will because they're going to be attracting institutional investors, that could eventually create room for fee reductions, although Goldman has not promised that, and potentially more NEOS products. So because Goldman is backing it up now, they may be able to finance new income strategies, expand distribution to other geographies, like you mentioned, internationally, and build complementary products around SPYI and QQQI.
So there are a few things we want to make sure that we're being clear about. First off, and very important, nothing changes about our investment philosophy. The same team will continue to manage the ETFs our investors have come to know and rely on. Secondly, our funds will continue to trade as normal under the same tickers. So nothing changes there when people start to think about what this transaction might mean to them.
And this was the first thing that actually crossed my mind when I read about the announcement: is the ETF that I invest in going to change? And the answer is no. Everything is going to remain the same. That is the goal. They have great products in SPYI, QQQI, and others that I've covered on this channel. And I want to mention that because while they might be expanding into other venues, other geographies, other ETF products because of the Goldman Sachs backing, the products they've been known for are going to stay the same with the same tickers.
There's no action that's required today on your part. We've always prided ourselves at NEOS at being focused on transparency, active engagement with our investors, and that will continue to remain true throughout this entire process and beyond.
So here's one of the reasons why Goldman Sachs acquired NEOS, and it's pretty basic, but it's money. NEOS manages roughly 30 billion across 19 income ETFs. So those assets and the management fees that they generate are added to Goldman. And the economics are the key right here. So several of NEOS major funds charge around 0.68% annually. And just doing rough math, 30 billion times 0.68 is roughly 204 million per year. And that's not necessarily NEOS' actual revenue, right? Because fees vary fund by fund. There are expenses and other considerations, but it shows the scale of the recurring fee pool that Goldman is acquiring. And there's an even bigger strategic reason. Goldman has been deliberately building an options-based ETF empire. So earlier this year, it completed its roughly $2 billion acquisition of Innovator Capital Management, which specializes in defined outcome buffer ETFs. Now, NEOS gives Goldman a major position in covered call high income ETFs. So Goldman ends up with something like downside buffers, defined outcomes, high income from NEOS and covered calls. And of course, Goldman has that enormous distribution network plus the wealth management clients, and that's a very powerful combination. So the products are going to stay the same, and Goldman has explicitly stated that NEOS co-founders Troy Cates and Garrett Paulela are going to join Goldman Sachs Asset Management as partners. And it's appearing that it's broader than just the founders. Reporting on the transaction says NEOS founders and staff are expected to continue under Goldman Sachs. So the bottom line, this gives me a lot of confidence that the products that we all have come to respect, especially SPYI, QQQI, and some of the others, are going to remain the same, and that's significant. So the bottom line is Goldman's approach appears to be they're going to buy NEOS, keep the people, keep the strategies, but give them Goldman's resources and dramatically expand distribution. If you're currently an investor in any of the NEOS ETFs, I would love to hear your comments, what you think about this acquisition. And in the theme of ETF news, there was recently an ETF that launched this year focused on SpaceX. The link to it is here. Take a look at it. Thanks so much for watching. Have a prosperous rest of your week.